Hey everybody, this is Grant Greguda, the creator of Starvinity. I'd like to talk about the third millennium within the Starvinity universe, especially on Earth. The Earth during the third millennium, which is 2000 to 3000 AD, is very complicated. A lot of conflicts within Starvinity. As you can see, a lot was going on, but I don't know where to begin really. Where should I begin? Well, maybe the Singularity Riots. The Singularity Riots, and this is all within the Starvinity wiki. You can go and read each one particular. If you want the exact what's written within here, but I'm just going to talk about it off the top of my head. But Singularity Riots in the 21st century, it was when the singularity, the technological singularity, happened on Earth. Everybody's jobs were gone. Robots and computers were taking over everything. And right now in our world, in our universe, here on Earth, in the year 2022, a lot's already been taken over by robots and technology. But in my universe, Starvinity, in another dimension, in another alternate reality, everything is completely taken over practically. Besides guaranteed income and a couple, people getting barely anything to survive. Society hasn't completely fallen apart, but people are not happy with having robots and technology being completely over everything and not having any choice in the matter. So the Singularity Riots were the worst riots in Earth's history at this time, especially in the Starvinity universe. The riots caused huge damage throughout the entire planet. Millions of people died in the riots. They burnt and destroyed everything. Cities, whole cities. Because the governments of the world were not smart enough to, in my story, the governments of the world were not smart enough to create programs to help people who had been displaced from, the entire planet practically. I'm not just talking about the United States or China. I'm just talking about every single country in the entire world was displaced by technology. The Singularity Riots caused lots of devastation. And then there was also the protest, the Human Rights to Work protest, which was connected to the Singularity Riots. The Human Rights to Work protests were less violent, but they had the same goal of destroying robotics in a way. They wanted to make more laws and restrictions upon robotics and technology, the right of humanity to work. And that they worked towards, the abolishment of robots controlling everything practically. The Global Alliance of Equality, if I remember, actually I kind of forget off the top of my head, was a global political and military alliance of over 100 nations that declared war on the superpowers of the world and their allies, leading to World War III. Yeah. Okay, the Global Alliance of Equality. During the Human Rights to Work protests and the Singularity Riots, a lot of nations around the world, especially the ones that weren't superpowers, were very angry at the superpowers. And in this Starvinity universe, the main superpowers, it's still it's mainly the European Union, the North American Union, China, like the Chinese Republic or the Chinese Union, the Indian Union. Those are the main ones in the Starvinity universe, the four main ones. There's There's more powers, but even like the African Union within Starvinity, it's a bit fractured. It's a little after the Singularity riots and the protests, the union kind of fell apart in a way, and then kind of reformed into the Global Alliance of Equality. Many nations in Africa joined the Global Alliance, and many other nations did too. Lots of nations throughout the world joined the Global Alliance of Equality to fight against the superpowers who were still controlling the flow of resources and technology, and they were pretty much decimating nations that were not able to provide for their citizens in a way. Because after that, nations were able to produce almost anything they wanted, but the rich nations would not give to nations that couldn't afford it, and the technologies were very expensive. And even but it became cheaper. But even the nations that you would think would be poor were not in the future, because it's the end of the 21st century, the beginning of the 22nd century. Almost every single country in the entire world has technology in a sense of robotics taking over things. Some technologies are restricted, like healthcare. At this time there was lots of health-related technologies that could extend people's lives, that helped people heal, like, the cure for cancer. Lots of things were invented that were kept from certain nations because it's a different universe. It's a different dimension. So don't think of it like our world. It's a different world. It's a different reality. The politics and the nations are somewhat different. They're somewhat same in some ways, but they're very different in other ways. Especially their allegiances and their alliances between each other are very different in my universe. There are, in this time, there was also World War III, after the Singularity riots and the human rights to work protests. And the World War III was the Global Alliance of Equality against the superpowers. The superpowers of the world did not join together. The superpowers of the world were fighting each other, and also the Global Alliance of Equality. They were pretty much all fighting each other. And it was just complete chaos at this time in the Starvinity universe on Earth. There were a couple colonies on Mars. There was a colony on Mars and in the outer, on the moon, but they were not very important in, the affairs of Earth. There were only, a couple 100,000 people living in these colonies, so that didn't matter much. Earth at this time was not very exploring in other star systems. The technology to jump to other star systems has not been yet developed or found yet at this time. At this time period, it was just pretty much just chaos and war and people fighting. After World War III, the world somewhat united in a way, because they realized that the destruction and chaos was so destructive to the future, and that if they kept fighting, that there would be no humanity would be gone. There'd be no humans left. Also, they kind of joined together too, because after there was peace after World War III. There was peace for a while. They were considering fighting again, but there was first contact in a way. There had been first contact before, but this was first contact on a global scale. The Orions, or a small group of Orions, landed on Earth. Orions are Orions are like humans. Orions are humans. They're just on another planet. They're on Orion, and millions of other worlds. Earth joined together after this, and shortly after that, they started finding. The governments of the world started admitting that they had found technologies from alien races on Mars and on Earth itself, that they had first contact before. Even in my Starvinity universe, there's Area 51 in a way, but it's different. And that there was aliens before in the past that had visited Earth, and different kind of aliens for different reasons. There's many different factions in the galaxy, in the Milky Way galaxy. And even in my universe, in my other dimension, my other alternate reality, there was still a lot of government secrecy. And after the World War III, after peace was worked out, and after they'd stopped fighting for a while, and after the Orions came in that small group, it wasn't a big, powerful group, because Orion was they had huge battle fleets. Earth could not defend against it, but Orion didn't care about Earth, because Earth was actually protected under a treaty that is actually millions of years older than this. There's actually a past history that I could go into a different video about the history of why Earth has not been attacked before then, because Earth had no battle fleets now. There was no battle fleets during the third millennium in the beginning. During the 21st century, 22nd century, there was no battle fleets. Earth had a couple starships of colony ships, not weapons really. A couple satellites, not huge battleships or Titans that the Orions had. The Orions had millions of ships. But Earth was protected from an ancient treaty that Orion was still scared to break. But the Orions that visited this time were a rogue group. They were not like the gods of Orion. They were not the military. They were just rogue raiders. They were just like a rogue, let's say pirates, kind of, but not pirates. They weren't pirates per se, but they were somewhat pirates, thinking that their technology, there was a couple dozen ships, but they were small ships. They were not gigantic battleships. But even those aliens coming to Earth and attacking Earth pushed humanity to join together into a defensive alliance and put all their conflicts aside for the time being, because they wanted to rush to create an Earth defense against alien incursions in the future and invasion. Because, of course, the aliens were more advanced. Orions were way more advanced than humans, but they were able to defend themselves against the few pirates this time. And they were able to reverse engineer that and ancient other technologies that they had found after the Earth governments admitted about finding technologies and, technologies on Mars. They eventually found ships, huge battleships on Mars from previous battles from millions of years ago. And those ships were reverse engineered to create the first battle fleets of Earth in the 23rd century, mostly the beginnings of it. I mean, at the 22nd century they made a couple, but not huge fleets. But let me go back. This is this is the third millennium, so it's 1,000 years. Third millennium, I mean, I could go on forever. It can go on and on and on. There's so many details. For 1,000 years, it's a long time. Lots of details to unravel in the history and the story that is Starvinity. But it's important, but there is the future. And the future is the main story in Starvinity. The past and the history is interesting and it is a part of Starvinity, but the future and the 7th millennium is the main part of Starvinity. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll stop it here because I could go on and on and on ramble on for hours, but I'll wait for future videos and see if you guys like these. And if you do like them at all, I will make more. And I will explain in more detail specific events, specific characters, and why things happen in the way they do. But for the time being, this is it for this video, and I hope you like, subscribe, share, comment, and please enjoy Starvinity. I hope you do. I enjoyed making it over the past decade. Even before that, I started when I was a kid, actually. It's longer than a decade. I've worked on Starvinity a long time. But a lot of it is not organized. I just have lots of notes, lots and lots of notes. The only things I have organized in the time being is my some of the books, which I'll be publishing soon, and some of my movie scripts. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you guys watch the next video. I appreciate it.